All right, so let's move on to New Zealand. You can see New Zealand's flag looks a lot like Australia's flag, with the British flag up in the top left, but it has red and white stars versus just white stars like Australia. However, New Zealand does not have any link or connection yet to the UK. It is completely independent, so it's a little bit different than Australia. All right, the people of New Zealand are actually called Kiwis. No, not named after the fruit, but however, named after the kiwi bird, which can be found in New Zealand. Now, the kiwi bird is a flightless bird, and it has evolved to become flightless because it has really no predators. So you can kind of see it has a little bit of a wing kind of nub, but it really doesn't fly anymore. So because it's not being preyed upon, it doesn't need to fly. So it has evolved to being that way. So that's why New Zealanders are called Kiwis, and the kiwi bird is actually on the New Zealand coins as well. All right, population of New Zealand is about 4.6 million people. The area is about 104,000 square miles. They also speak English, and their literacy rate is 99%. Their life expectancy is 79.3 for males and 83.7 for females, which again, if you're going to compare this, clearly much smaller in population, much smaller in area, same literacy, both speak English, and again, people in Australia live longer than New Zealand, and people in New Zealand live longer than people in the United States. So life expectancy is a little bit higher in this region. All right, the land. New Zealand is made up of two main mountains. The South Island, of course, is in the south, and it's mostly mountains and hills. There are some glaciers that are on 3/4 of the island, and again, you can ski and yet leave that island, go to North Island, where there's a lot of geothermal activity, geysers, volcanoes, hot springs, earthquakes. There's an earthquake at least every day. They estimate about 14 to 15,000 earthquakes a year in New Zealand. So it has a lot of that geothermal activity. And most of the people live on the plains of the North Island. So when you look at New Zealand, let's see if this will pull up. So I just want to show a couple of things. Obviously, you've got some of the same marine life, but it is a little bit colder than Australia. But again, in this region, you've got lots of whales that come to this region for mating season. You have waterfalls, a lot more green, lush areas. Again, you've got the mountains. New Zealand is a location that has been the film location for a lot of movies and TV shows. So Lord of the Rings, those sorts of things. Let's see, Xena, the Princess Warrior, Hercules, the TV show. So a lot of, unique landscapes that have been used in a lot of different movies. All right, climate. Seasons are reversed because they're in the southern hemisphere. The average temperature is much cooler than it is in Australia because it is closer to the South Pole. So 70s to 40s. Some places do get a lot of rain, or over 320 inches of rain a year, and some are much drier and they get 14 inches of rain per year. And again, it's due to the wind and ocean currents going up and over the mountains. Now again, if you get less than 10, you're considered to be a desert, so they don't have any of that, but definitely 14 inches would be close to that. Plants and animals, same thing as Australia. Lots of unique plants and animals simply because they are an island. If animals originated there, they don't really leave there. Not a lot of new animals can come on the island. For example, the kiwi bird is only found in New Zealand because of that isolation. History. All right, the first people in New Zealand were called moa hunters, and of course they hunted the moa, and both the moa and the moa hunters have died out. The next was the Maoris people, who settled in this region next. And just like Australia, Captain James Cook was exploring this part of the world, discovered it in the late 1700s, and claimed it for Britain. It was independent from Britain in 1852, and its federal capital is Wellington. So go ahead and label New Zealand on your map. Again, North Island, South Island. Of course, North Island is in the north, South Island is in the south. Wellington, you can see, is the federal capital. And then there are some other major cities, probably more famous, Auckland or Christchurch. Those are probably two that maybe you've heard of. Papua New Guinea. When we're studying these three big island nations in Oceania, Australia and New Zealand are very similar. Papua New Guinea is not like the other two, and your first indication would be by the flag. And you can see that this flag doesn't look anything like Australia or New Zealand's flag, and so that tells you that this country is significantly different. All right, the population is 7.1 million people. The area is 179,000 square miles. It's the world's second largest island. Papua New Guinea shares half of the island of New Guinea. So New Guinea is the second largest island if you don't include Australia as an island. And we mentioned that Australia can be a continent, an island, and a country. Languages. English is one of the 3 official languages. However, there are over 840 different languages that are spoken in Papua New Guinea. This is considered to be the most linguistically diverse place on Earth. And some of that is because there is a rainforest. And so small groups, clans, tribes have existed. And so you can see that Papua New Guinea has 840. Then you have Indonesia with 710. Nigeria has 524, India 453. The U.S. actually has 335, which maybe seems more than what you think. But again, a living language has at least one speaker that is their primary language. Australia 319, China 305, Mexico 292, Cameroon 275, and Brazil 228. So those are the most diverse countries as far as languages. All right, literacy rate, definitely much lower than Australia and New Zealand, which was at 99%, so 64.2%. And if you had looked up this number 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was much lower than that, so they've made huge gains in being able to read and write. Of course, their literacy rate is lower because if English is one of the official, and that's not the language of the people, because there's 840 spoken, clearly you're not going to be proficient in speaking, reading, or writing in English. Life expectancy, it too is much lower, 65.4 for males and 69.9 for females. Lands, they have a lot of mountains. They have much more good farmland than Australia, for example, and it is near the equator, and they have lots of rainforests. Temperature, it's hot and humid all year long. Again, with a rainforest, you kind of know that. And again, being closer to the equator because it is north of Australia, so it has that climate all year long. Plants and animals, again, it has unique plants and animals because it's an island. You've got that, isolation feature. And also because it's a rainforest. So you're going to have different plants that can grow there than in the deserts of Australia, for example. History. It used to be controlled by Australia, so it was a territory that was dominated or controlled by Australia. It got its independence in 1975, so Papua New Guinea is a fairly new country in world standards, and its federal capital is Port Moresby. All right, so label Papua New Guinea on your map. Again, Port Moresby is the capital. You won't have to locate the capital, but just know it. And again, here's this island, and you can see how it's split. Indonesia shares the other half of the island, and this one is Papua New Guinea with all of the islands as well.